Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another live session of Getty Talk. My name is Shilpi, and I'm the Relationship Manager with the Global Education and Training Institute. I have Dr. Neha Anand with me today, who is from our very own city, and she has a lot of feathers in her cap. Well, let me start introducing her. But before that, I'd like to welcome her on this platform. And thank you, Doctor, for joining in the education movement, disruptive education movement started by Dr. Sunita Gandhi. Dr. Neha Anand is a psychotherapist. She is a counselor. She is also a parent coach, and she is the founder director of Bodhi Tree. She is also a consultant psychologist with the Baba Saheb Ambedkar University. She is also associated with UNICEF as a state counselor. And she is, apart from that, she has her own NGO, which is Meri Pehchan, meant for both urban and rural areas. And before I also, give her the platform that she wants to talk about, she has many awards in her kitty. Like, for example, she's got the Ficky Flow Women Achievers Award 2018. She has also been a finalist of Swam Siddha and felicitated by Dr. Rita Bahuguna. Ma'am, you are very lucky. And she has also been awarded by Excellence Award 2019, facilitated by Mrs. Swati Singh, the Cabinet Minister. There are more to go, but we have just time for this much. And she is going to speak on equipping children for real world. Equipping children for real world. Now, ma'am, it is over to you to let us know what are the factors which will contribute in this field. So here we go.
Certainly. First of all, I would like to thank the entire team of Getty and a very wonderful and happy good evening to all of you globally, whosoever have joined us here from India and abroad. A very namaskar to all of you. This is Neha Anand, and I was a little confused when I heard my introduction, but it always feels good and gives you intrinsic motivation when extrinsically acknowledged by someone else. So thank you so much, Ms. Shilpi, for giving a wonderful introduction. Now, why I chose this topic, equipping and enabling children for the real world. Whenever we talk about children, teens, and adolescents, there are a few words which immediately strike our mind, like developmental milestones, academic achievements, growth, emotional resilience, etc. etc. We cannot deny the fact that after 2020, this corona pandemic has changed completely 360-degree our perceptions, and there are a lot of things which we realize that children need to learn and what are the need of the hour. So whenever scholastics or academic achievements are being talked about, there are a lot of other things which somehow, maybe not deliberately, but we overlook. And after 2020, we learned a lot of lessons, which probably being a parent, being educators, we all have collectively realized that all the stakeholders have to come together, come forward, and let us do something which will enable and equip our children to develop that resilience for the survival in real world. Now, first of all, I would say that life is not all about bed of roses or a carpet walk, because our children, they literally have to learn that people outside in real world will not sing all the praises all the time. Maybe as a parent, we can do that at home, but the real world is more rational, logical, and pragmatic. So it certainly requires everyday effort. We need to nurture our children in a way. For that matter, I'll initiate by showing a PPT. Ms. Shilpi, I would request you to kindly put the PPT here. Yeah, the second slide, please. Yes. Uh, can we enhance the screen? Can you enlarge it? The full view, if we can see here. So, quickly, let me brief about it, because till 2019, yeah, the second slide. Till 2019, most of the parents who used to come to my clinic were worried about how children can enhance their attention span, their concentration, or maybe some of the pedagogies, what would be the suitable method for improving their academic arenas. But after 2020, there are certain lessons which we all have learned, and specifically for children, if we are talking about, these are certain things probably we need to ponder over. So, the very first lesson is that children, specifically adolescents, they need to have flexible approach, because psychoanalysis says that by the age of 7, children already write their scripts, whatever they are registering, whatever information processing they have, they try to register as a script, and later on, after that age, as per the developmental milestones, they keep on adding something or the other to it, but the basic script is already been written. So, in the very tender age, at a very tender age, at a very young age, if we are giving that attitude, we are trying to inculcate those approaches in our children, like they have to be like water. They have to learn how to adapt whenever some kind of crisis or unprecedented situation is coming in front of them. Second lesson was, as I have written, when you can't change your circumstances, you have to change your perspective. So, whenever in psychology we talk about perceived reality, perceptions, and perspectives. So, we need to teach our children, our teens, our adolescents that, okay, there are certain things which are not in our control, but definitely we need to change our perspective towards a situation. Either we can become problem focused, or we can become solution focused. Third lesson is having an important support system, and the simple notion of caring for one another has a tremendous effect on the quality of life we have. Definitely. We cannot deny the fact that empathy, morals, values, altruistic attitude is extremely important, and it has tremendous effect on the quality of our life and on our psyche. So this is the lesson we have to learn, that at times our children, they all need to stand for each other to have a better world. Then we need youth to act like leaders. Now, in our schools, teachers probably they try to make prefects, they have monitors, but somehow in longer period of time we have to train them that, you know, no matter what you do as a professional, the leadership quality is extremely important. Everybody needs to introspect. Every child needs to learn how to explore and introspect about themselves. They need to be self aware, they need to be self empowering and empowering for others as well. So, this is the core of life. Then the most important thing is resilience, which I truly believe many researchers have already given their researchers that why this generation Z, the millennials, are lacking coping mechanism. They are not very well equipped. They are not emotionally resilient. So this is the key. And in 2020, definitely we all have realized this fact. Then, what is the next lesson? Parents and teachers prepare ultimate training ground. When I say this, I say school like family and family like school. So there has to be a collaborative approach between teachers and parents where they both can work in a cooperative manner, where they can train their children the life skills, how to take care of themselves and others as well. I have seen many professionals, many adults who are extremely good in their work at professional front, but they don't even know the survival skills. If they have to cook, what if they have to decide on something, what about budgeting, what about cleaning? These are the survival skills, and I believe everybody needs to learn this. And equally, they have to learn a small talent or hobby kitty, whatever we call. They have to look deep down inside and start getting indulging into something which can increase their happiness quotient. I believe these are a few pointers which we all would agree with, and we cannot deny the fact that children, not only scholastically, but co scholastically, also they have to be equipped enough. Yes? Now, when I say that this has to be done, we have to focus on two things. The first is why, and second is how. I'm going to talk about why first. And whatever questions, whosoever are joining me here, are listening to me, they can put up their queries, they can come forward and ask me certain questions related to their children. So let us understand why. Why are millennials lacking coping skills, which is the need of the hour? Because the first thing they have to understand, there is a difference between the world outside their homes and there is a world inside their houses. So at home, they have a comfort zone, they have parents, and parents, no matter what, they'll be accepting them unconditionally. They'll be providing everything, whatever their children require. But real world is much more than just the theoretical knowledge, which is there definitely in the books. So it is a software which can be instilled, but how to apply that knowledge, which is beyond books, that has to be given, that has to be inculcated in our children. Second, real big world is practical, rational, and pragmatic. I always say that, there is a tug of war between amygdala and our prefrontal cortex, which we say dil or dimag ki jaddojahed. But whenever children learn to create a balance between amygdala and prefrontal cortex, their decision making, their problem solving approach will be definitely rational, practical, and pragmatic. Then, real world is unpredictable. Well, there are a lot of children who come to me who find it difficult to adjust outside their homes in unpredictable social scenarios with strangers, with unprecedented crises. They are unable to adjust. And there are a lot of adjustment issues going on with n number of adolescents. So this, they need to understand that real world is definitely unpredictable. You never know what is going to happen the very next moment. Then comes real world consists of finger pointers and faulty finders as well. We need teachable kids. Nowadays, I see there are a lot of children who find it extremely difficult to agree that they are lacking something or they have a scope of improvement. Many children come to me and they say, we are perfect, we have no scope of improvement. I don't think there is any problem. But we need children who accept their failures, who accept their flaws, and they need to understand that perfection is a pure myth. So we definitely need teachable kids. Then comes real world needs correction and redirection. So we all need to understand that at home, as I said, our parents, our siblings, probably they reframe their statements. They do not want to hurt their children, but real world would never do that. It definitely requires a lot of correction. Every now and then children have to adjust to sail. Now real world needs children who learn from their failures. Unfortunately, we adults in this generation have been training our children to succeed, succeed, and succeed. Win, win, and win. It's not always about winning. It's always about taking our feedback, taking our failures, taking our criticisms so that we are very well aware of our scope of improvements. And this is what we have to make our children learn. Next slide, please. Now, what are the components? As I said, why is it happening? Now, this is very, very serious matter where we all have to pay attention. When I talk about faulty parenting styles, I never say that there is a perfect recipe for a perfect parenting. There are different parenting styles, there are different parenting strategies, but yes, with specific ingredients, not a specific recipe, but specific ingredients, techniques, tools, mechanisms, we can make our children learn a lot of things. What parents are doing, the millennials, which I'm talking about, parents are mostly serving everything on a platter. They don't even give a second thought that what will happen if I do not challenge my child for certain things. Everywhere there are consolation prizes. I understand the need for reinforcement. I understand that positive feedback is extremely important because it is all about conditioning theory of learning. Children learn, children will stumble. But then it's not always about goody goody. As I started with the statement that the world outside will not sing all the praises all the time for our children. So, parents need to create a balance between democratic and authoritative parenting. So, there should be a balance. Neither they are supposed to be too authoritative or too helicopter parenting is not required, nor they are going to be very lenient. So, democratic is one of the best parenting style where I say give autonomy, let them stumble, let them fumble, but then let them learn from their own mistakes. Every time they cannot hold your fingers and to learn or walk. All right. So parenting strategies need to be learned. Secondly, why is it happening? Most of the times I have seen, and nobody would deny here, that our education system needs several amendments. The entire world is switching over to vocational trainings now. It's far beyond books, it's far beyond the theoretical knowledge which our children are having nowadays. So the education system, whatever curriculum, whatever schools or whatever boards are following, they need to make it more practical. Rote learning nowadays would not work. So if a child is a kinesthetic learner, if a child is an auditory learner or a visual learner, the curriculum has to be fitted as per the child. Secondly, whatever they are learning, we need to ask, we need to create a curriculum where they can utilize all the knowledge, all the wisdom, whatever they are learning. So it has to be very, very practical so that they can use it vocationally and in outside real world, how they can make the best use of it. What other component is responsible? Now, children are somewhere dangling between Western and Eastern cultures. Neither they are fully adopting the Eastern philosophies and Eastern scriptures or lifestyle, nor they are completely getting fitted in Western culture. So they are in a dilemma. Now, we need to make them understand the importance of our own Eastern culture, and we need to make them understand that they have to be open enough to embrace other cultures as well. So there has to be a balance again. They are in a stringent belief system that what, like, I'll give you an example here. English has become a fad. So children, I am in Uttar Pradesh, and there are a lot of schools where children are not very fluent in talking English. They have this stringent belief, they compare themselves, and they have understood that if I can't talk in English very fluently, maybe I'm intellectually deficient. So they are suffering from low self-esteem, they have low self-confidence, they find themselves as an alien. So there, these stringent beliefs has to be break, the patterns has to be break down, and teachers, educators, facilitators, parents, all the stakeholders, they need to work collaboratively and to make them understand to accept themselves the way they are. Language cannot define anybody's IQ. Then, over an excessive exposure of technology. See, the Generation Z has been, I personally believe, wedded to screens and technology. That is why they are getting separated from the real one to one conversations. The bond is lacking between family members, the neighbors, the friends, peer group, because they are hooked on to this technology and screen the entire day. There has to have a balance, and excess of anything is, anyways, too bad. Then obsession for winning. There was a time when we used to say that passion is very important to achieve something, but now obsession is a new term, it is a new fad. Everybody wants to win, 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 but no matter, a rat race would always remain a rat race even if a rat wins. So don't become rats. You are unique. You are your own self. We need to make this very thing clear. Children need to understand that even if you do not win at times, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to win all the times. So acceptance is the key here. And last but not the least, conflict between wants and needs. Again, there is a discrepancy. Probably parents sometimes they are unable to make their children understand that what is a need and what is a want. That is why when a children comes up with something, they hardly reject the idea even if it is not needed. So the pep talk, the everyday counseling session, even it is for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, quality time talk, communication, it is extremely important. The door of communication should be open between children and their parents, also between children and their facilitators and educators. They need to understand what is urgent now, what is important now, and what we can keep it aside and we can take it later on. Next slide, please. Now, how? Why I have already explained. If any of the parent would like to put up any query, we'll take the queries after once I'm done with the slides. Now, strategies. I'm coming to how to deal with it. So the first and foremost thing what you have to do, that you have to make children understand that you are not the only person on this earth. There are people who are equally special as you. Everybody is unique. It's not just you. I have heard parents, educators, I've heard many a times that they say, you are different, you are special, you come first, you are extremely good in this, not that person. So comparison is toxic. Never compare your child with anybody, even teachers. It's a humble request that whosoever children are sitting in your class or in your school, please do not get biased. Every child is unique and beautiful in their own ways. Acceptance is very important, so that unconditional regard has to come from us being adults. And that is what they will inculcate. Children see and they learn. If we adults discriminate, we get biased, we are indirectly conveying an ulterior message to our further generation. So there is nothing special or not special. Everybody is same, everybody is equal, everybody is beautiful in their own ways. Secondly, appraisal versus discounting. As I said, okay, being a facilitator, having a soft corner for a child, or maybe for my own children, I can praise them. But sometimes healthy criticism is always important. The feedback is always important. We need to be very honest, genuine, and congruent with our words, with our feedback. That if the child is doing something wrong, there has to be a technique which we call feedback sandwich, where you initiate with appraisal of whatever the child does good, and then the real message, whatever feedback or negative, positive criticism, healthy criticism you have to give, and then again close the feedback with some positive reinforcement. So these techniques we truly need to learn, and linguistic patterns, I always say, play a pivotal role. Then comes confidence versus overconfidence. Unfortunately, I see many children, many adolescents, those who are overconfident, and many a times they say, we don't need to learn anything, we all know. Or they try to belittle their peer groups, or they try to bully whatever they are good for, or they try to humiliate someone. Now that's overconfidence. Confidence is something when you feel good about yourself and you make others feel good, you uplift people. That is confidence. So we need to make children understand the difference between confidence and overconfidence. Then comes luxury versus basic life. A humble request to all the parents here that let your child earn. Earn means not everything monetary, not everything materialistic. Let them earn that respect, let them earn that luxury. Till the time, I would always suggest don't waste a single penny on your child. Let them feel that worth. Are they worth it? Let the feeling come, let that realization come. Wait for that moment, then only they will cherish the achievement, then only the happiness quotient will be increased. So give them challenges, give them some barriers which they can overcome. And I have already discussed want versus needs. Can we have the next slide, please? Now, this is very, very important for educators who are listening to me today and parents as well. So, in schools, if we introduce Johari window or SWOT analysis or SAT in positive psychology intervention, we say that is strengths, achievements, and talents, such kinds of self awareness tools, if we introduce them at a very tender age, I believe children will get to learn a lot about themselves. So it is a process where they need to introspect about what they are good at, what are their achievements so far, what are their weaknesses, what do they like, what are their threats, what are their opportunities. Everything will be known from the very tender age. So it's a humble request, if school personnel, if authorities, if parents can introduce such terminologies at a very early stage of life. Can we have the next slide, please? Now, what are the skills to learn? I think home is the first school for a child, and parents are the first teachers. I myself is a parent, that is why I know it is extremely important to make your child from a very tender age. Empathy, which I believe is missing nowadays. In 2020, when UNICEF, since I'm associated with UNICEF, they came up with a lot of PDFs, with a lot of videos where they shown that, do not label whosoever is down with corona, or do not label them, do not talk negative about them. There, I believe empathy is required. And if our children, our teens, adolescents, they are learning these skills later on when they reach adulthood, I think they can become a beautiful human being, and they'll be definitely prepared to face the crisis, the unprecedented crisis later on. Then comes self-esteem. When I say make your children learn to take their criticisms and failures, then only this skill can come. If every time I talk goody goody to my child, if every time I make my child stand in front and it makes me feel cross when my child comes 10th or 20th in a class, if as a parent, as a facilitator, I cannot take it, how would my child take it? So for that matter, I have to behave very rationally in front of my child. My actions plays very important role in front of my child. So self-esteem, definitely everywhere if we are not trying to inculcate these things in our children, we are not helping them out, there will be extreme difficulties which a child has to face when they come out of their homes in the real world. Decision making. Now, decision making is something which doesn't come all of a sudden. It starts with small decisions for themselves, like buying stationery or buying some books for them. So these are very small decisions. If you can't give them such kind of autonomy at home, how do you expect your child to take rational decisions later on in life? So, from the very beginning, please give an opportunity to your child to participate in some of the family talks where important decisions are being taken. Sometimes we overlook these very important skills. Also, we adults assume that a child is very small. How would he participate in a conversation? Let us understand that your child is extremely intelligent. Never underestimate the potential and efficacy of your child. The child is efficient enough to understand, or even if he is not, she is not, it is your responsibility to explain it precisely to your child. What are you talking about? So give that small autonomies, liberties, and then only expect the bigger decisions in life. Then comes the SMART goals. There was a research which was being conducted in Harvard University, and they came up with this research that only 4% people makes SMART goals in their life in the entire world. Now, this is a devastating statistical data. I tell you, if your child, your teen, your adolescent is from now onwards learning how to make SMART goals, working on targets, he'll be very well equipped to reach and fulfill the goals when he or she hit adulthood. Then comes creative and critical thinking. Now, it could be anything. Intelligence, as we all must be knowing, that intelligence is not just one arena, it could be multiple intelligence. So, if the child is good in painting, if the child is good in inventing something new, if the child is good in poetry, linguistics, please ask your child to be original, to come up with the ideas. Don't shun your child all of a sudden. Don't say that, okay, this is beyond your academic arena. How would you use it? Definitely, your child needs to do something innovative every day. Sometimes let your child stumble, let the child come up with his own ideas. So, this is how you will encourage your child to think creatively, analytically, and critically. Then comes assertiveness. To be honest, people who are suffering from mental health issues, most of them I have found subjectively, this is my opinion, sitting in my clinic, that they are lacking assertiveness. Either they are passive or they are aggressive. Assertiveness is a balance between passive and aggressive. So you don't have to be very submissive. You have to be firm with your opinions. You have to say a no whenever it is required. You don't have to please everybody. These are the skills which you need to teach your child in schools and at home as well. At both the fronts, your child will learn to be more assertive, more rational, rather than throwing tantrums, rather than becoming extremely aggressive or furious. The child would exactly know how to say a no. Then comes communication. I think the entire world is dependent on effective communication. So it is a two-way process, as we all know. But most of you need to understand that our communication is full of assumptions, full of suggestions. The filters are required, and that is why communication is said to be a skill, where listening is equally important, comprehension is equally important, oratory skills are equally important, interpretations are important, and it is a ratio of 93:7, where 93% is based on how you say something, and just 7% is the content, where what are you talking about. So these skills, if we are making our children learn at a very tender age, I think they are well equipped and well prepared to face the real world. Then comes the most important dimension, which we call emotional resilience. This topic, I would say, is very important to make you understand. Many a times, we adults make our children shun and discount our negative emotions. Now, our nervous system, our amygdala, is made up of two types of emotions, that is, positive emotion and negative emotion. Negative emotions are a part of us. Negative emotions are further divided into two categories, that is healthy negative emotion and unhealthy negative emotion. So healthy negative emotion like anger, I would not deny the fact that anger is also a very healthy emotion. Sadness is a healthy emotion. So, fear is a healthy emotion. But if they are not being acknowledged at the right time with the right intensity, they could turn and get into the category of unhealthy negative emotion. Never ask your child not to cry. Never ask your child why to get angry. These are extremely basic natural emotions. Let the child learn, acknowledge, and enhance the emotional vocabulary. Otherwise, the emotional regulation is a pure myth. So make them understand, make them acknowledge these emotions. That's how they can differentiate between negative and positive emotions. That's how when they cry, it's your linguistic pattern when you say, okay, I hear you, I understand you're crying, it's okay to cry. Otherwise, later on in adulthood, when they are unable to acknowledge and accept their emotions as they are coming, they would be ending up having some kind of mental disorder. So, let us work upon these skills and dimensions at a very tender age. Can we have the next slide, please? So I think time is the biggest constraint, or I can talk volumes about these skills, but this comes to an end of my PPT. And if you have any questions, any queries, you can put up your queries and I would try to give answers to that.
Thank you, Dr. Anand. And so there is something Rilanli Singh, she has said, to learn from our failures of feedback, we need constructive criticism. So, how do we actually understand the difference between unnecessary, derogatory criticism and constructive, helpful criticism? I think this is a very valid question.
Yes. So here, when I said communication is a
Yes.
two-way process. So we need two people to get into a communication or a dialogue, since it is a dialogue. Now, the person who is giving a feedback, number one, the person has to be well equipped to give a feedback or a constructive or healthy criticism. But what if the other person is not well equipped? What about the other person who is comprehending and interpreting? So either of them has to be equipped enough to interpret, or the person who is giving the feedback or the criticism has to be well equipped. Here the role of self esteem is extremely important. If you cannot filter what you have to take, if you cannot filter what is the most suitable thing about you, if you cannot introspect whether the feedback which has been given to you is authentic, genuine, honest, right or not, and moreover the person is significant to you or not, is also a very important factor. So on these factors you have to analyze whether the criticism is constructive or destructive.
Yes. So I would also like to ask you, like, as you talked about self-esteem, there's a very important question. You know, teenagers, especially in schools these days, they need to understand. Would you be able to, in simple words, give them the difference between self-esteem and ego? You know, when teachers scold them or the elders scold them, you know, they feel as if something bad has happened to them. You know, when we were growing up, scolding was taken in a way because we thought it's a part of our, you know, childhood. But these days they are mini adults. They feel as if nobody can say anything to them. They know it all. So, would you like
Hmm.
to define the difference between self esteem and ego when somebody is criticizing? So, how would you say,
Yeah.
the
So
way
the
they
basic
retaliate?
difference, yes. So the basic difference, the first basic difference is ego many a times can be destructive, and self-esteem is a very positive word. Ego is a toxic word. Secondly, self-esteem, as I said, we need teachable kids. So, self esteem is such a positive thing where it is a skill, rather, I say, where a child is open enough to take the criticism, to take the failures, to take any negative thing from others, but the child will analyze, the child will not discount himself. All right. But in ego, the child, the doors are closed. The child is not even responsive. The child is not even listening. The child is apprehensive to take the feedback that, okay, how is it possible that I can be criticized? I'm a perfect person. I love myself. So there is a difference between self respect, self love, and narcissism also, right? So these words, these things, I believe we educators, we parents, and we facilitators, there is a lot of responsibility on our shoulders to clarify precisely these terms to our children. Otherwise, how would they understand? Miss Shilpi, you need to unmute yourself, I believe.
Sorry. So it says, ma'am, there's a thin line between being self aware and over analyzing our thoughts and behavior,
Hmm.
or, being. How do we
Hmm.
identify that difference? That is, we are analyzing ourselves, or we are like overthinking.
Yes, a beautiful question. I would like to take it. So, if you remember, I had mentioned a few techniques: the SWOT analysis, the SAT analysis,
Yes.
and the Johari window. So, initially and earlier, these techniques and tools were being used for corporate people. But now times have changed. I think every human being needs to be taking these psychometric assessments or screenings. And as Johari
Yes.
window says, there is a structured questionnaire also. And in Johari window, there is a known self, there is an unknown self, there is a blind self, there is an unconscious self. So the worksheets are there. If you go and Google, there are a lot of screenings tools which you can take up and answer the questions, whatever they are given. So there
Yeah.
you won't overanalyze yourself.
Okay, I think this would be the last question from the session. It says, self awareness at times leads us to feel anxious, and knowing about ourselves also makes us overly self critical of ourselves. So, how should we avoid that and strike a balance between the two? Yes, when we start over, even when we are just thinking about our personality, how can we improve, or, what is it that our entire personality is made up of? So sometimes we start
Hmm,
feeling low. Oh, I have so many weaknesses. There are so many
hmm,
drawbacks. So that is
hmm,
what I think she is trying to ask, that how can we strike that balance, not to overthink. And when we are accepting ourselves as ourselves, then let
hmm,
not that affect our self-esteem.
hmm. Yes. So it's not just analyzing your weaknesses, darling, I said. It's analyzing your strengths and achievements as well, which you have to celebrate. First, celebrate your strengths. First, feel good about yourself. And most important, give that unconditional regard to yourself that I'm a human being. I cannot be perfect. I'm full of flaws. The wisest approach is that I can work upon my weaknesses. There are a lot of scope of improvements, but yet I will cherish my strengths. I'll celebrate my strengths. So every day remind yourself, pat your back.
That is a very good statement that you have just ended with, because in schools also now, we don't call it weaknesses. We don't say the child is weak at this. Rather,
Mhm.
in the report cards and milestones, we have a column where it is written area of improvement.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we are human
Absolutely.
beings, and we change every day. There is always a chance that we can, because we are the superior species. So I
Correct.
think we can change, we can improve and learn and unlearn. So
Yes.
on that note, thank you, Dr. Neha Anand, for being with us. And in a very elaborate fashion, you have been actually been able to give so many tips, not only to parents but teachers also, how we can equip our students, how we can, even if we are parents, our children to deal with the real world. Because we keep them in a cocoon when they are at home. It's like a cocoon, and one day they have to fly away. Right. So they have to leave the nest. So thank you once again, and hope to see you in near future with one more interesting topic on our dashboard.
Thank you so much. May God
You're
bless
welcome.
you all. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Same to you. Thank you, ma'am.